This is going to be a pretty simple video because Grood, published by Drageus Games, who kindly supplied me with my copy, is a pretty simple game. You have a forward shot, you can pick up upgrades like a shotgun or a laser, and you can charge a meter that allows you to activate a slow motion effect that weirdly doesn't alter much. I mean, of course, it slows things down, but since you slow down too, and since this isn't a bullet hell, I'm not sure why that's been chosen as your only alternative mechanic. It sometimes feels like it's been put in purely to have a second button to do something, rather than because it suits the game. There's no trick to the scoring beyond taking down as many enemies as you can, something that isn't even always a good idea since shooting them involves putting yourself directly in line to be hit by one of their very common kamikaze runs. For the most part, enemies themselves are more of a danger than bullets, with large numbers of them coming straight for you on those aforementioned kamikaze-like paths, and the majority not firing bullets at all. Although each stage introduces new enemy types, their placement is procedurally generated, as are the health pickups, introducing a great deal of chance into your runs, particularly regarding health, since sometimes you'll get more than one pickup in a single stage, sometimes zero. Some enemies, like the laser-wielding ships in Stage 3, are horribly unfair, insta-killing you from off-screen before you even know what's happening. The procedural generation can also be manipulated in Stage 4, for example, where staying low forces the most difficult main stage obstructions the game throws at you to also spawn lower down, allowing you to then simply fly over the top of them. I will say, however, that due to these things, the game is never boring. Enemies come at you relentlessly, and provided you can see them, Grood serves up some hectic gameplay that will keep you engaged right up until you hit a game over. And there are further plus points. The visuals definitely have style, and the game has a driven heavy metal soundtrack. From viewing footage, I really wanted to try the game, and overall I am glad that I did. However, there are certain visual choices that actually end up creating the game's biggest problem. Namely, awful visibility, and a general sense of confusion and a feeling of helplessness as you're left at the mercy of elements outside your control. The biggest culprit here is the game's dynamic weather system. Now that to me sounds like a buzzword that's more likely to help EA sell their cash grabs to teens than one that's going to entice many Shmup fans into buying a title, and it just does not work here. When the sun is up and shining, the game both looks good and offers some mostly straightforward fun as you pick and choose which enemies you're most likely to be able to take down and which you need to just get out of the way of. When night falls, however, all such plans go out the window as you just hold down fire and hope as dark enemies on a dark background zip by almost invisibly. None of this is helped by there being no real damage indicator. Instead, as you take hits, the screen cracks and starts greying out, although it's often difficult to tell the difference between this and the weather darkening, and there even seem to be moments in which the screen jerks and sputters just as some sort of sporadic special effect. Honestly, it's hard to tell because it's so rare that you know whether you've been hit or not anyway. There also seems to be a huge discrepancy in how much damage enemy weapons inflict. I could sometimes take 2 or 3 hits from the lasers in Stage 3, and sometimes would die with one touch from them despite having just picked up a health charge. The game also suffers from a lack of balance, difficulty lurching from long, simple but fun stretches to sudden difficulty spikes that will end your run and see you sent back to game start. Mitigating this, after Stage 4 there is a system that allows you to continue from the start of each stage, but in general being forced to replay 2 or 3 easy stages just to try out that one difficult point is a design that never works. Now Grood is cheap, and while a sub $5 price point can often be a warning of some incoming shovelware, that is absolutely not a term I would ever consider using to describe Grood for even a second. Clear effort has been put into the visuals and design, with the UI being interesting and there even being an extra visual mode to give the game a 90s feel. The music fits the overall aesthetic, there are online leaderboards, and it all looks to be adding up to something rather decent. In general, I would say a lot of thought has been put into this, and when it's working, it can be some good simple fun. The moments when it does work, however, are interrupted far too often by really, really frustrating moments, and the game lacks any real hooks or wrinkles to keep you coming back. I'd give Grood a 6 out of 10, which is a bit of a shame really, because there are elements that make you feel there's a potentially really decent little game hiding away in here. Unfortunately, the whole has been sabotaged by one or two really poor design choices that scupper the overall experience. But under a $5 though, it may be worth checking out if you're looking for something new. There's a real dearth of information on this one, despite it having been on Steam for a couple of years now, so please do post a comment if you've tried it. And as ever, thank you for watching. See you next time. Cheers.